Imagine standing in a drafty cottage in 18th century Wales. A family huddles in silence around a wooden casket, but they aren't just there to mourn. They are waiting for a man who lives on the fringes of the woods, a man they despise but desperately need. He steps forward, takes a piece of bread that has been resting on the chest of the deceased, and eats it. In that one bite, he has just condemned his own soul to hell to save the person in the coffin. This was the Sin Eater. Welcome back to the Dark Historian channel. I am the Dark Historian, your host. Today we explore one of history's most taboo occupations. We're venturing into the rugged Welsh marches and borderlands to uncover the extinct and somber ritual of sin eating. For centuries, these moral scavengers were a staple of rural life, spiritually essential, yet socially loathed. We will look at the liturgy of the ritual, the heavy price of social exile, and the story of Richard Munslow, the last man to officially carry the burden of a village's sins. Why did this practice exist? And why is it seeing a massive revival in modern folk horror and gaming? The ritual was deceptively simple, but spiritually terrifying. When a person died suddenly, without confession or the last rites, their soul was considered heavy with sin, risking eternal damnation. The Sin Eater would be summoned. A crust of bread and a bowl of salt, or ale, would be placed on the corpse's chest. The belief was that the food would physically absorb the spiritual transgressions of the deceased. The Sin Eater would then consume the meal while reciting a specific prayer. I give easement and rest now to thee, dear man. Come not down the lanes or in our meadows, and for thy peace I pawn my own soul. Once the bread was gone, the sins were transferred. The family would then drive the Sin Eater away, terrified of catching the very filth they had just paid him to eat. To be a Sin Eater was to live a social death. They were the ultimate outcast. Most were the poorest of the poor, the desperate or the mentally ill, who had no other way to survive. Because they were believed to be carrying hundreds, if not thousands, of unconfessed sins, people feared their very touch. They lived in isolated hovels, avoided eye contact, and were forbidden from entering churches. In the eyes of the community, they were walking vessels of corruption. This is a classic case of social death, where a community creates a scapegoat to handle their communal guilt and fear of the afterlife. They were a living, breathing paradox. The only person who could save your soul was the one person you were forbidden to love. By the late 19th century, the practice began to fade as the Church of England cracked down on superstitious folk traditions. However, in the village of Ratlinghope, a man named Richard Munslow revived the rite. Unlike many before him, Munslow wasn't a pauper. He was a wealthy farmer. After the tragic deaths of 3 of his children, he reportedly took up the mantle of sin eating out of grief and a sense of duty to his community. He died in 1906, and his grave in Shropshire remains a site of pilgrimage today. His restoration, in 2010, by local historians, highlights a growing fascination with these dark historical figures who carried the burdens of their neighbors. The Sin Eater hasn't truly disappeared, they've just migrated into our fiction. You'll see their influence in the folk horror revival in films like Midsommar or The Ritual. Gamers will recognize the motif in the grotesque Sin Eaters of Final Fantasy XIV or the Dung Eater from Elden Ring, characters who literally consume defilement to change the world's order. This enduring interest shows that we are still fascinated by the idea of the sacrificial lamb, someone who takes on the darkness so the rest of us can live in the light. The Sin Eaters of Wales remind us of the lengths humans will go to find peace in the face of death. Would you have been the one to pay or the one to eat? Let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed this dive into the darker corners of history, hit the like button and subscribe for more forgotten lore. Until next time, keep exploring the shadows.